This little thing is called an 808. The real 808 came out in the 1980s. This is a remake of one.
In the 1900s?
Hey.
That's nice, Dave.
Hey, here we go again. For a long time, we've been friends. We're gonna talk about where we're going. We don't even know, we're just flowing.
Dave-O's on the beat, making freshness. Always bringing that hot, it's bestness. He's on the computer and it's great. I just got done with lunch, no plate. All I had was a napkin. This is me true, not acting. Making up lyrics for the freestyle. Meanwhile, Jer1's over there ready to bang on the drum and sing a couple songs that'll be sung by all of the kids. All of their lids be lifted like hi-hats. I'm that cat on the microphone bringing a rap with freestyle with the cat in my bag. Let it out, let me shout, let me tell everybody about my sauerkraut. That's the vegetable I ate the other day. No, I didn't, but it rhymed, so I said it anyway.
Oh, he said it anyway. That's the way we play when we get up on the way. We're about to slay. That means kill, but not literally, just really getting ill. And that doesn't mean sick, it just means getting great. Yo, I'm coming off the top with my mental state. It's kind of crazy, it's unified, but it's a whole field of you and I. Yo, we're together, moving through the weather. Rain on our shoes, that's from forever ago. But yo, we do our thing like this. Greg, tell him how to do this lyricist.
I write words on a piece of paper, then I solve a mystery, we call it a caper. Wait, that's a food that sometimes I see inside a soup. Kids really like it when you say poop.
Poop.
When you started freestyling though, when did you start freestyling, and when you did, was it actually freestyle, or did you write something and then pretend it was freestyle?
No, I genuinely thought that freestyle could only ever be not made up beforehand. So I don't know where, I think that emerged from a mentor of mine, MC Smooth, who was like, you can have nothing in your mind beforehand. It just has to come in the moment.
That's the purist. Yeah. But like, I think when I started freestyling, I was so amazed by the people doing it that I would go and write like a few lines to get it started. Yeah. And then the more of those you add, then you can interchange them. Then you start making up stuff. I had to like onboard to it. I had to lie about it at first, but I don't hear. I mean, you could Google like somebody freestyling and find a few people out there, but do people still freestyle?
Good question. Yes is the short answer, but they don't do it publicly and record themselves on a podcast doing it.
Yeah, you gotta be okay with not sounding good at all. That's a nice beat, Dave.
Thanks. I have a lot of fun going back to the basics, getting out of the computer.
Yeah.
Just seeing what happens when you press buttons.
When did you first use an 808, Dave?
I had an 808 in the 90s. I found one at a pawn shop for like not that much money, because when the 808 came out, it was trying to replicate a real drum kit in the 80s. And people were like, this does not sound real. And then people like Phil Collins started using it. And there's a couple, like Michael Jackson, like Beat It has an 808 in it. Like the true 808 does not sound like the 808 of today, which is like trunk rattling crazy. It's a little tighter and sharper. So if you listen to the 808s from the 1980s versus today, it's a very different experience. So
it's a little chintzier too, right?
It's
a little
chintzier.
thinner.
It's like kind of sounds like a toy a little bit. But the kick drum was always so much bigger than most drum machines. And then what started happening is people would sample their 808 into their samplers and then pitch it down, extend it out, which is how we get what we call 808s today, is that big fat kick drum.
Can you think of any of our songs that you use the 808 on?
Oh, that's a good question.
I should have had you research that beforehand.
I'm sure, not a real one, but like anything with a sub kick drum bass would be kind of considered 808. Yeah. None of it's actually derived from a real 808 anymore. It's just big boomy bass. But the original one had a pretty significant kick drum to it. So
the spark sounds like 808.
It's the spark, baby. You got it. It's the spark. It's the spark, baby.
Yeah, there might have been some samples of 808s in there. When we wrote all those Figureheads records, I was just using a computer and like a Native Instruments machine later on.
I got a story about Spark. This was just from last week. I have 2 teenage daughters, dropping them off at school. And this girl I think she's a sophomore in high school, she saw me leaving the school and she was like, she just looks at me and she says, Spark. I was like, yeah, Spark. And she's like, the song. I grew up with that song.
Nice.
And I showed it to Sage, and Sage said, that's my dad.
She's like, no,
And
it's
it blew
not.
Yeah, she was just staring at me like, what? How is that possible? Yeah, apparently she somehow knows about the Bryans. Knows the Bryans. Anyways, but it was pretty cool. All these years later, this teenager is like showing the Spark song to her friend, and that's my daughter.
Yep.
Pretty dope.
And my brother was a teacher at that school, and he would always play Fire in the Soul for his students there. So I wonder if that's part of how it got started.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, dope stuff. Do you guys what are your favorite memories from the first time we recorded back in 2003? Remember? Minneapolis?
Loved
That
it.
would have been Minneapolis.
Mountain Dew was one of my favorite memories because I didn't drink much soda, but when I got around Dave, I would drink loads of it.
I'm a bad influence. Sorry.
So I would just be hype, and I would take an iPod. You can look that one up with, regular headphones that you had to plug in, and walk with Dave's beats and just write and write and write. Walking the streets of Minneapolis and being super excited by the experimental, beautiful music that Dave had composed.
Yeah, I was so excited to go because of the first time Jeremy talked about you, Dave. And I've probably told you this, but in Jeremy's house, and he was so excited about coming back from this music festival, and he was trying to describe, and it wasn't just your music, it was describing what it felt like to be in a space where you were like turning knobs and this crazy sound coming out of the speakers, and Jeremy was committed to making music with you. He's like, we got to make music with this guy.
No,
So-
we were playing this outdoor festival, and I was just doing an instrumental set, and I think you hopped on stage. I don't know if you were invited necessarily, but you were there, and I look up, and I hear like this crazy flow going on, and I'm like, what is going on? And I think afterwards I was like, we should try to do something together. And then you started coming to Minneapolis,
Yep.
and I was living with Dane, I think, in this small little apartment in Northeast Minneapolis. And I would just write beats during the day, and then you would grab those beats and walk around Northeast Minneapolis and write lyrics. And then I don't think we recorded anything. I think we were just writing.
Yeah, that first time we were just writing.
Yeah.
Well, no, we recorded 2 tracks.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we did. Sprung.
I got rain in my roots, living the first song like this is my first spring, and I'm singing my first song, not even knowing the words, but already inspired like a lovesick squire, and I'm requited desire.
Did we record them with Bethany at that point, or was that just...
No, that was before we had Bethany engineer
Yeah.
the rest of the songs. Yeah. Yep.
But then, fast forward not that far, and my buddy Heath had a studio, and we got Bethany, which is a friend of ours, to come and engineer, because I had never recorded any vocal ever, and I just made beats. And so we went there, and you brought Greg, and I'd never met you. And
Yeah.
you came in, and you had this backpack on, and you were like...
I still have it on, actually. It's right here. It's right over here. Yeah, I was so excited and insecure because, I looked up to both of you guys, not even knowing you, but Jeremy was like describing you as this quirky Greek god on a platform with big speakers around you, and Jeremy was incredible lyricist, and I was like, I hope that I can do something here. And then I get there, and then any of those fears were overcome with my fear of cat allergies. Because you had cats, and we were gonna sleep there, and I was like, I know I'm gonna die. And then you were like, I got a place you could stay.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went to this like being refurbished a warehouse manufacturing plant, and you're like, yeah, you can sleep in here. It's like pitch dark. I can't see anything. And there was like this ladder leading up to this little crevice in the ceiling. And I crawl up there, and there's just like bottles and like random blankets and stuff. And I was like, I guess I'll sleep here. And you're like, yeah, there might be a guy named Greg here in the morning when you wake up. And I'm like, okay, but it was so exciting because like then you guys just left. And I'm in the pitch dark, as far as I know, an abandoned warehouse. In a crevice in the ceiling.
Such a good host.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just get you a place, abandoned warehouse.
Yeah.
Before phones had flashlights, so you're just dealing with the darkness.
Like, why didn't we just go like, well, let's just get you a hotel room?
We didn't have money. There was no money in any of our pockets. But yeah, I remember I woke up the next morning and the whole wall was windows overlooking a train yard and then beyond that was Minneapolis. It was awesome. It was a glorious sight. And there's this dude sleeping on the couch. I think I snuck out and went and got orange juice and donuts, and I woke him up.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I got orange juice and donuts. I had been hiding in the crevice in the ceiling.
Did he know you were there?
I don't. I mean, you probably would have said something to him,
right?
But he looked really, really confused. It was awesome.
Greg was a good guy. He and I went to college together, and he was a good dude.
He's a nice guy.
But so then we all went and recorded a couple of songs together.
Yep, 3. Yesterday's Rain and the other 2 from Configurations. But yeah, we knocked out 3 in a weekend.
Yeah.
What was that song where we reversed the chorus?
Drum the Excuse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We had everybody sing, and then Bethany said we had her go in there and say, "Excuse the dramatics if we get a bit dramatic.
Yeah.
Dramatic bit it get the dramatic of the excuse," or whatever it was. Did we actually have her say it backwards? We didn't just reverse the audio. She said the whole line
I think
backwards.
we said it backwards.
Yeah, we did say it backwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a dope song. Super good song. Yeah, insert song here.
Yeah, let's do that. Cut.
Excuse the drum addicts if we get a bit dramatic. Dramatic bit of get we if addicts drum the excuse. Excuse the drum addicts if we get a bit dramatic bit of get we if addicts drum the excuse.
Yeah.
And there you go. I don't think we knew what we were like. We didn't have like a huge mission in mind. Like, let's be a band.
You know, what's even funny to me is like, it's not like we shared that music and there was such a strong response that we decided to go and like do music together. We felt like it was cool and fun. And so we're like, yes, let's throw away everything else and pursue music only.
From this weird stuff that people were like, oh, that's interesting music.
Yeah. So good. So yeah, after that we the twists and turns of pressing into life, and all of a sudden we're making that weird cool stuff, and then making music for kids.
Yeah. I still don't know how and why that happened, but I'm on board.
Yeah.
So I moved to Madison, and so did you.
Yeah.
Because Jeremy lived there, and we were like, let's try to do something. And I was like, I need to leave the city.
Not New York, not Los Angeles, Madison, Wisconsin.
I thought that place was pretty hip.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of artists and interesting, like people with the sense of purpose, a lot of academic arrogance that we got to be around. Yeah, but it seemed like a life-giving place, kind of in the middle of where we all were. But like during the day, Jeremy and I were working with kids and just using music with them.
And I was just sitting in a one-room apartment, just writing beats all day,
all night.
Yeah,
we would. It was like Christmas every day. We would wake up and wonder if there was another beat in the inbox. You know?
Was there even inboxes then?
Yeah, I think theoretically you would say I got more beats, and then we would somehow
would
get
I
them.
send them to you? I mean, this was like before, like, oh, there's an attachment on your email. I mean, maybe not.
How did we play them?
There had to have been a way to send them to you.
I think we were actually downloading the MP3s from something.
Okay, I wasn't like walking up to you with a tape.
You were humming them to us, and we...
I'm like, I've got this beat idea. So, yeah, okay, I was emailing them to you.
I don't know, but he had laptop.
What year was this? Can we get a year?
I was bringing my
2004.
iPod sometimes to have you load it up.
sync it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2004, I got a job with Integrated Development Services working with kids who have autism. with Andy Paulson, the guy who ended up investing in us. And it was end of 2004. He brought all of us on staff to write music and start a publishing company. So it really started like basically January of 2005.
And we got to tell the story how, I mean, that's a big leap. How did he hear about us?
Yeah, well, I got this job doing in-home therapy with kids. And there was this one little girl named Annie who was having a really hard time with morning routine. It took her forever to get ready. She was kind of combative with her mom. And my project with her was to help her overcome that. And so we worked on a song together. And I remember asking you guys if I could use this beat that we hadn't recorded yet. And I just took it in and asked her what her morning routine was. And we created these lyrics together. And then I remember I asked you to bring some recording stuff to my apartment.
Yeah, that was literally the first time I had ever recorded vocals myself, which now it's like, oh, I do that all the time. But before that, I had other people do it. So I was like, I think I can do a song with you.
Yeah, it
and
turned
we
out
recorded
great.
that song.
Yeah, Annie's
I know
song.
when to wake up, I know when it's time. My mom gives me a hug and says, good morning, sunshine. I know what happens then, it happens every time. After I wake up, my mom opens up the blinds. Then I have to go to the bathroom, yeah, I go. That's right, I know, put my feet down on the floor. Next I pick out clothes from my head down to my toes.
And I called it Annie's song because that was her name, but I also thought it was fun to play off of the John Denver song that I had sung years ago at a wedding or something. But I was like, I'm going to take over the name Annie's song. And she listened to it at night, in the morning. Anyways, the song kind of transformed her life. And one thing led to another. And Andy Paulson, the guy that owned this clinic, was really curious about how we could make more music to impact more kids. Wisconsin Public Television found out and did a story about it. The Journal Sentinel, or Wisconsin State Journal at that time in Madison, did a big story on it. And it just kind of spread. But that's when we got together and I asked you guys if you'd be interested in making kids music.
And it was something that was kind of written in the DNA of Greg and my friendship. When we started doing hip hop, it was at college. And it was always dreaming about how does this connect with the educational world? How does this connect with literacy? How does this connect with the youth that we're working with? So it wasn't a huge stretch, but it did require an ego death because, you know, the fantasy is Saturday night under the spotlight, rocking the mic for grown folk who love hip hop. So hip hop heads, intellectuals, artists, you know, like I had a vision of that world, but, you know, what our real world context was is we were starting families, we're working with kids, and we're like, how does hip hop connect with our real life, not the fantasy? And so it was a challenge to me, though, to be like, okay, I'm down.
It's I think looking back, it's fascinating to see that in reality, if by ourselves, none of us would have made the music that we made together. I don't think.
Oh, yeah, no way.
So we all compromised. We all let go of some thing that we would have rather have done for the sake of making something truly together. And I think that collaboration made something that was not only interesting and literally reached millions of kids and parents and people, thousands of institutions that are using our music and all that, but it resulted in music that's sort of timeless. Like your experimental drive with the beats and the music, I think made it so that our earliest kids music, if you play it right now, it feels relevant still because it wasn't trying to be it wasn't like, well, let's make kids music that sounds like kids music. It was, let's make something that happens when we get in the room and think about kids and what we want to say to them.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was coming from an electronic music background, not a hip hop background, so I didn't just sample loop some beat and loop it. Like I was writing as if I was writing electronic music, and I think that changed how we approached it and what it sounded like in the end. I think as the later kids albums, when we get into like Fire and the Soul, I was maybe looking around more, being like, what should this sound like? And going for more pop hip hop, but then the stuff we wrote just for fun, it was, anything goes.
Anything goes, yeah. Totally.
What was your guys' favorite music of the Not Kids music from, what was it, Life in Depth, Figureheads, Self-Titled, and then, all those albums?
Yeah. Well, Far From the Crowd, that track, that has got to be one of my all-time favorites because it brought in elements of dub, like true dub, not dubstep.
Right.
But true dub, so it brought like this Caribbean connection, which is all part of hip hop's origin. It brought in singing, which we were always on a quest for melody and flow, and so that captured a lot of it. And we were always about collaboration, so we collaborated with an artist who's a profound poet and essayist and activist named El Guante or Kyle. And yeah, so that song encapsulates some of our highest values, meaning the mark.
Reflections in the morning light, recollections of a former life, plagued by conformity, formally tight, cast as this is what it's normally like. But I knew there was more to this life than a thorn in my side and a roll of the dice. In an artificial paradise, inhabited by prophets and parasites, where the ladder stay full up, gorge on the light, spending their whole life in boredom and flight from the plight of the poor and the mortal insight. The death could be right around the corner tonight. Well, the former war for the rights of the crushed and oppressed, like a portrait of Christ. So I wander according his morbid advice, to die to yourself and be born twice. Yeah, these are the thoughts I allow when I'm wandering far from the crowd, walking around head off in the clouds. Who knows what I'm talking about? Yeah, these are the thoughts I allow when I'm wandering far from the crowd, walking around head off in the clouds.
I think that might be my favorite verse I've ever performed on a song.
Give back the forgettable child that I lost, burning the innocent miles that I've walked, covered by the colorful rhythms that I talk. I bought my thoughts on wasted weekends, God-given secrets, I barely speak them. I pretend, punishing myself in deep ends. The wolves are supposed to be clothed in sheepskin, I've been clothed in people's...
My favorite one in my memory, I haven't listened to those records in a while, but the This World, because I remember approaching it from more of a score, and which is what I do a lot now, is scoring film and picture, and I hadn't gone there much before, but it was like this build towards this thing that was ambient and beat, as far as I remember. Didn't it start real slow and kind of moody, and then it just built and built and built and got bigger and bigger?
This world is lost on you, on me. And yo, when the coast is clear, let's make a break for it. When the coast is clear, let's make a break for it. This world is lost on you, on me. And yo, when the coast is clear, let's make a break for it. When the coast is
Yeah, that helps contextualize what that song even is for me. It totally meant for a score. I like that.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to take the things I know about electronic music and have done with textures and ambience and put it in what we do. Although, a lot of times it doesn't work. But for that one, I thought it worked. And even for what the song you were referring to, Far From the Crowd, had a real, like, moody, and then, like you said, dubby. And I listened to a lot of, like, King Tubby and Mad Professor and was really interested in, like, 1970s dub. And I'm like, how can I work this into what we do? But I'm also really into Aphex Twin and Square Pusher. How can I, but also not wanting to alienate a bunch of people by making just a bunch of noise. And then, how do you fit, Aphex Twin into kids' music?
I feel like This World is one of those songs where you create this epic sound, and Jeremy and I overthink everything and go so deep into stuff. Like we'll start talking about lunch, and it'll end up in discussion of Dostoevsky and the meaning of relativity or something. And so, like, you have this epic sound, and we're like, oh, this takes me to this really powerful, deep place. And so we're performing, we did these lyrics for that song and going into some pretty deep stuff, spiritual, like apocalyptic, as far as I remember. And then
that's my favorite genre, apocalyptic.
I feel like we get so into it, and then if we like walked out of that room and somebody listened to it, they'd be like, "You guys okay?"
All right. And then, hey, aren't you the guys that also sing "Born for a Reason"? What's going on here? Like, you're scaring my children.
That's that stuff that we made that was more experimental, not for kids necessarily. It gave me a chance to experiment with poetry in a way that I always wanted to. And one of the songs that I both love and despise what I did on it was "One Time Round."
Oh, that's a good song.
It's a good song. I like it. But in my verse, I was experimenting with almost like an abstract explosion of random imagery that makes total sense to me because it's all tied to parts of my story. But there's zero chance anybody's going to be able to follow it in that way unless we sat down and talked about it. But yeah, then I'm so excited about it. And then I'm performing it in front of a crowd thinking, this might maybe sound cool to people the way it flows, but no one has any idea what I'm saying.
I have a video clip of us playing at the King's Club of you performing that, and we're going to cut to it right now.
I wake up, put my face on, snapped in the days long. Fact, I won't stay gone. 50 in the mailbox, crack. Mama shovel broke, dice on the riverboat, lights on the winter coat. Get me out the sandbox, packed in the black box, smacked in the detox. Bam, diggy, beat, free socks, 5 digger discount. Dinner with the Equinox, Lieutenant dismount. Smack bottle broke, whack overused word. Crap, I'm not in the shirt. Meet me in the black hills, quick in the door like get where the boys not. Kick it's a short shot, syncopated drum fill. Time you can breathe now, find get your beat now. Climb till you get up with a fiddle in the ease off. Talk on the front step, walk with the unkept. Walk in the sunset, finish when you started. Pour on his lashes, rope lines, taxes. I've been hibernating on a metal mattress. 1 cup of matches is all I need. Cross with the cap full of fresh caffeine. Last seen at the corner of Center and 15. 5 teens that I learned to give up on 5 beats. High beams in the city, the city for all me. Salt teens in the mouth and the mountain is unseen. Who the line of colleagues out of hibernation. Don't forget your own have one time. Who the line of gotta need a lot of motivation. Only have a ticket for one time.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's been a blast. I think with our shows, we did so much freestyling, like how we opened this. I think that people have always liked that. Do you guys remember any highlights of freestyling in general in front of thousands of kids around the country? Any moments in that space that stands out to you?
I remember, there's the condiments one.
There's 2 of those, which I don't know if they're fully appropriate for the podcast, but
we still got gigs after that, so it must not have been that bad.
Yeah. Some of my favorite moments were when we would do these school assemblies, and at the end of it, we would invite kids up to dance, and we would do a song or freestyle or whatever, and it was like almost every time it seemed like the teachers or somebody would come up to us afterwards and say, so-and-so is quiet, never engages, everyone like doesn't fit in, can't connect socially, and that would be the kid that's the star of the show that gets in the center and everybody's cheering him on and everyone's in shock that this kid is like liberated. I think that happened so often that it just became expected.
Come on, open the windows now, let the wind blow right.
And I don't know, I love that part of it.
I enjoyed having kids up to make beats. What I thought was even better if they were like really little kids and they would just make just a crazy beat and then I'd be like, all right guys, rap to that. Be like,
Yeah.
like just tons of noises and but on the other hand, some kids would come up and they would just get it and they would just slam down a beat on a machine and I'd be like, man,
how about we write a song right now and end with a song that we write in the next few minutes.
Okay.
You guys, unless you guys want to talk about something else.
no,
this is good.
get a few topics together and make a song.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, I'll start writing a beat.
And we'll talk about topics. Is my Phantom on?
So when we're live with audiences, we're asking them, what do you want us to rap about? If it's elementary age, we're getting like video games, we're getting cartoon characters. Usually there's a unicorn in there. When we're with older audiences, there's money, there's cars, there's what people expect hip hop to be about. We love to flip the script on any topics. So how are we going to pick them today, Greg?
I don't know. Let's pick from what we talked about just now.
All right.
What stands out to you from that conversation?
Let's see. I like the phrase ego death.
Ego death.
So we could talk about what that means without getting too, like you mentioned earlier, too intense about it, without overthinking it.
Ego death. I like the idea, the words yesterday's rain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picturing us at that picnic table in the park in Minneapolis writing, and you had just written the iPod wired dialogue line, or at least I just heard it for the first time. So I'm gonna think about the park.
All right.
The park, the picnic table, ego death, a park, and just include our story maybe.
Okay.
The theme of our story. All right, so we might cut some of this out, but we're just going to let a few minutes pass, and then we're just going to record whatever happens as Dave makes his beat.
Is that a good tempo?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to find a sample here.
R.I.P. King Tubby. This beat sounds dubby. Feeling real lovely. It's about to get ugly. It's about to get fresh. Cause we're talking about ego death. That's when you like resurrect a whole brand new flow that can intersect with what's really going on in your everyday life. Hanging out with your kids and your wife, working out the daily domestic chores, moving to the rhythm and settling the scores, taking out the trash, washing the dishes, whatever it takes for you to bear witness to the fact that ego has to die for us to come alive. Hey, that's the way that we rise. Move to the rhythm, emphasize the beauty in your lives every single moment, and that's how we get on it.
So do you want to just freestyle 100% then, just to the topics? That's probably easier than actually writing verses and stuff.
That's what I was doing.
Okay, yeah, I'll just freestyle.
But yeah.
All right, yeah. My ego is an actor, always acting faster than he really is. Then I met these kids, they taught me how to live, how to let go, how to stop trying to prove myself and just flow, how to enjoy the park, how to enjoy the dark, how to walk outside and believe there's a spark in every single person. Nothing is worse than letting your ego pull you down. Let me hear a new sound, I'll share it with the world, writing songs for adults and the boys and girls.
Everybody take a deep breath. We're just chillin', talking about ego death. But for all my young people, you gotta take it slow and grow your ego. Let it develop, envelop in all the beauty around you. Yeah, you know that it all surrounds you. Until the time comes to say no, I wanna go beyond my ego. So everybody just take a deep breath. We here chillin', talking about ego death. It'll happen to you in your 40s, so chill out, all of you shorties. We're mostly addressing your parents and others too. Yo, coming off of the top, Figureheads crew, mentioning the songs that we wrote all along, and now we're about to rock until the break of dawn. Hey.
I got an ego that I let die. I'm not afraid cause I watched it fly away up into the treetops, and it will not drop cause I let it go. It resurrected as something new though inside of me. The energy of gratitude and optimism. It's a prism, turn it around and let it glow. Every angle, every fracture, let it flow.
Let it flow.
Receive what you can into your hand.
Hey, Y'all take a deep breath. We all come alive after ego death. It goes, everybody take a deep old breath. We all come alive after ego death.
Whoa!
That's what happens when you make it up as you go.
We did not write it down.
Good stuff.
I wrote it down.
Yeah. Well, fellas, we've been traveling a long time. We've seen a lot of stuff. I mean, traveling through life together for a long time. You guys are like my brothers. We've seen so much, enjoyed so many adventures, overcame obstacles together. It's going to be fun to share stories and make music with you guys.
Absolutely, man.
Likewise, man.
The Figureheads Podcast.
Straight up.
So men, women, and children, come back next time for more music, more conversation, maybe some guests. It's going to be fun.
Podcast. Oh, wait, I didn't rap.
Uh-oh.
Never mind.
You should.